Richard, may I ask you to please give your views on what would achieve stronger investment partnerships across Africa pension funds, and what would also enable African pension funds to invest in capital markets?
Thank you very much, Chair. The first thing that I have to say is, I come from a pension fund, and at the same time, I'm also chairperson for many pension funds in Zambia. And one thing that I've seen is there are huge investment opportunities that are available in infrastructure in Africa, and particularly speaking for Zambia. There's so much that has to be done in terms of road infrastructure, shopping malls, talk of the railway systems, you talk of many other things that actually that have to be done. And you find that most of the budget and most of the projects that the government has prioritized to do with the infrastructure. And pension funds are being asked to get involved in how to help do those infrastructure projects that the government has. Now, for pension funds, of course, there are some reasons why they have to get these are long-term investments, and at the same time, there are risks. And not only that, but they can also help pension funds to match their fund liabilities and help these institutions not only to do that, but also to diversify their portfolio. And they're coming in. But one thing that has come to the fore is the issue that the policy that regards how pension funds can participate using public-private partnerships is complex. And you find that the policy guidelines themselves, they are not coherent to those that the pension institutions would want. And also the instruments that have to be used on the capital markets, also those instruments, they are in a way that actually the laws are all different. So you find three pieces of laws that are different. The one that is guiding the public-private partnerships, and then the one that is guiding the capital markets, and also the pension themselves, they have laws that guide themselves. And so there is need to have this harmonized so that the institutional investors, such as the pension schemes, can have an appetite in getting into these private partnerships. It's something that is very, very important. And I think what is being done is to create environment, a policy environment, whereby the guidelines will also help the institutional investors, such as pension funds, to get involved in these private partnerships. But at the same time, also, there is need to create that transparency. It's a complex thing, and it requires skills, and the skills that are required are very, very important. For people to understand exactly what they have to do in that public-private partnership. And at the same time also, there has to be some reform in the regulatory framework itself. In pension schemes, of course, in Zambia, we have already gone ahead in pension schemes that we have done the reforms, and there are broader pension reforms that are taking place. But one of the reforms is that in Zambia, at the moment, you are able to invest 30% outside the borders of Zambia. And of course, this can be invested within Africa and beyond Africa. But effectively, what has been invested is less than 5% because of lack of skills and issues to fully understand what needs to happen. So there is that reform that is taking place.
So, and at the Richard, let me just try to get what you're saying. For stronger investment partnerships amongst Africa pension funds, you're saying regulatory reforms need to be put in place to make the investment process much more transparent and make it more easier for various institutional players from across Africa to invest.
Yes, it is in fact paramount that these regulations are done in the capital market themselves to develop. And I think the previous session, they have talked a lot to do with the capital markets.
Yes.
And I think those views are very, very important in ensuring that the reforms are undertaken that way. And I think across Africa, in terms of also the pension, there's a lot of reform that is and that reform, of course, has to align to ensure that they don't only look inside, but they also look beyond where they're going to get the returns. That's extremely important. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I would like to ask how much investment are the pension funds here prepared to make in infrastructure funds, for example, for a regional infrastructure fund, not local, national fund like in Botswana, but for example, for East Africa. There is a community out there. There are also West African possibilities. So are you restricted from investing in a dollar-based fund of that sort? And if not, I would like to talk to you.
Okay.
Please state your affiliation.
Sorry? Mahesh Kotecha, Structured Credit International. I'm also on the advisory board of East African Development Bank.
Thank you. So that question should go to Richard, Zambia Association of Pension Funds, and Lesedi Botswana, and Kanye, RBA. That's the question if you can. How much are pension funds prepared to invest across the region in infrastructure projects?
Funds, private equity funds.
Infrastructure funds,
Yeah.
in infrastructure funds, not direct projects. Do you have allocations for these and, you know?
For Zambia, you know, the investment guidelines are very clear that you can invest 30% outside the borders of Zambia, but it does not specify in what instruments you can do it. So it's something that we have not yet done. I know it has been because of capacity and issues to do with due diligence and partnerships, but it's something that is on the table being discussed. And already, I think we have advertised in quite a number of institutions to get partnerships with other partners, custodians, so that we can manage to do that outside Zambia and also outside Africa.
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.